There are generally two forms of addiction. So, classic is some type of substance, right? Abuse, some type of substance addiction, right? Whether it's heroin, cocaine, alcohol, prescription pills. But also there's behavioral addiction, gambling, right? Sexual addiction, pornography, or anything in that camp, right? Sexually compulsive behavior. And what I want you to know is that when I hear someone say once an addict, always an addict, or you're going to manage this your whole life, I literally want to take them out back and do untherapeutic things because it's not true. There's no religious setting, right, or set of spirituality that endorses that mindset. And there's also nothing in the clinical world that proves that that is true. They did a study in 2005 about alcoholics where they said after someone's been 5 years sober, the likelihood of them being an alcoholic is actually the exact same as everyone else. So of course, we could all end up in addiction due to trauma, life circumstances, and bad choices of our own. Any of us could be exposed to addiction at any time. But I want you to know once an addict, always an addict just isn't true. I know that has not been true for me personally, and I know so many men, particularly in the sexual addiction space, who have 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years of total sobriety from pornography, masturbation, or any sexually compulsive behavior. It is totally possible. The analogy that I always use is where there's smoke, there's fire. And what I want you to know is the addiction or the compulsive behavior is the smoke. The fire is the underlying emotional issues, or the word that I would use is trauma or wounding. And so if we've never looked at that or looked at any of our wounding and our focus has been solely on the behavior, then it can seem frustrating. Like, why don't I just have the willpower, or why don't I just stop? And then there are people who have stopped or cut themselves off, who have basically locked themselves in a basement, and then they just are worried to step into the daylight because if they do, they know there's a chance that they're going to act out again. And what I want you to know is that's like a fish not knowing it's in water. I truly believe in, as Todd Olson says, that addiction, particularly sexual addiction, it's an attachment disorder. It's because I don't know how to get my needs met in the world because they either had violence or trauma put on me or no one ever taught me what to do. It truly is an attachment disorder. And so trying to tell a fish it's in water when that's all it knows seems confusing. But then once we know that there's something outside of the water, we can start to look at that wounding or trauma that's happened and really heal. There's a huge difference between sobriety and recovery. I will always endorse sobriety and would never tell anyone there's anything bad about white knuckling to have openness and connection and not numb out in your life. But the work that I can do is the recovery work. I'm happy if you want to pay me to talk about how to contain the smoke, waft the smoke around, and all of those different strategies. What I also invite you to do is just go to my resources page and get all of that information for free because it's available and out there. But what I can do for you here in this space is help you with the recovery. Help you put out that fire so that that smoke is not continually perpetuating and generating. Johann Hari, in his book and in his TED Talk, has a beautiful quote when looking at addiction and how addiction happens with people and populations. And he said this: the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. The work that I can help you do here is to get you back connected. And the people I've worked with and know, and even myself, that when we're connected in the world, we're not once an addict, always an addict, and we're not managing anything because we truly are free, because we don't need it, because we're connected, we're attached. And so if you feel like you've hit a wall or you're struggling and that's resonating with you, that you're done trying to waft the smoke around, I'm more than happy to hold some space and go shoulder to shoulder with you as we step into your fire.